Well, the meeting at Club Menangle last Saturday night was highlighted by the running of the Fifth Stakes, named after that wonderful mare. Another exciting mare in RD's Express was successful in taking out the Fifth Stakes ahead of stablemates Tay Tay and I Love Her Bubbles. One of the gentlemen behind the brilliant Frith was Bruce Harpley. I'm delighted to say he joins me now. Well, Bruce, good to catch up there. As I mentioned, we had the running of the Fifth Stakes at Club Menangle last Saturday night. What a wonderful mare, no doubt, some wonderful memories.
Definitely, Mick. Yeah, I certainly makes me smile when I see her name on a race like that, and it takes you back to the good days with her.
Right from the word go, Bruce, she was outstanding. She won her first race and then continued on her winning way. Numerous Group 1 titles. Did she always show something special from day one?
It was funny. She was a bit of a slug when she first started off with Bernie, and actually the first start I didn't drive her, and I drove another art major, one of his, and she won. But yeah, it wasn't long after that. Actually, a second start she won, and I remember saying to Bernie when I went back, I said, I'm not too sure the last 400 whether this horse was pacing or bolting, but she was going very quick anyway, and it just kept getting better.
Bathurst Gold tiara, Bathurst Gold bracelet, also Victoria WA Oaks, just included among some of those outstanding wins.
Yeah, certainly. She was a funny horse too, because I've always described her as a horse that didn't really want to be there. She didn't really want to do it, but she hated getting beat, and that was the key factor. If she led or in the death, particularly in mares and fillies days, she could dictate from there, and yeah, she just didn't like horses heading her. So that's the main thing of all, with the ability, obviously.
You mentioned Bernie Kelly. How big a role did he play in your career?
Oh, definitely. I wouldn't have got to go to all these places with these good horses over the years. I think I've been lucky enough to get sort of 16, 17 Group 1 winners, and they're all Bernie's horses. And I think Bernie's out in the 20s. Virtually when he moved to Wagga and retired from Illinois stud, he improved his breed again, and it wasn't long before the winners started coming. And we had some great horses there, no doubt about it.
One of the best, one of those who you always consider to be one of your favourites, Albert Kelly.
Yeah, he's still probably my favourite horse, even over Frith, just because he was the perfect horse to drive. He was a really laid-back, casual sort of fellow. When Bernie and I first were trying to pick one out for the Australian Gold, and we were out at his paddock having a look at him, and we dismissed him very quickly because he was a dope. He jumped over the drawbar on the float and just sort of didn't give a bugger about anything, and then he ended up one of the quickest horses I've ever driven. But he had a presence about him. He was smart, dropped the bit, sprint, tough. He could do it all, so it made it, as a driver, made it a lot easier to drive him. But yeah, he was probably my favourite.
Bruce, you earned a lot of fame on the track, but you're also famous off the track. You became known as the June postman, but your career in work started out with Westpac Bank. Why the switch?
I went to Westpac. Obviously, my brother was in the bank at the time, and everyone always considered bank a good way to go. And I never really wanted to do the horses full time. That was just a hobby. And but after I only lasted 9 months in the bank, and I come home from Temora Bank one afternoon. Dad said, "Did it rain over there?" I went, "I don't know. There's no window there. I couldn't see." And I thought, this is not where I want to be. I was an outdoor person, so yeah, I soon got rid of that, and luckily the postie job come along at the time, and I was just relieving of that and doing a few horses, and then the opportunity come to do it full time, and it worked out perfect. 30 years before I retired there, and I could do the horses and got all around Australia and had all the fun with the horses, and still turned up to work every morning, so it worked out good.
Yeah, 30 plus years as the Junee postman, the famous Junee postman, but the Junee post office itself became heritage listed. Did that also include Bruce Harpley?
Yeah. Well, it's funny, I was the junior out of it. There was 2 postmen there, and I was 30 years, and the other postie was 49 years. So he's retired now too, but he hit the 50-year mark before he retired. So between us, we had a bit of experience, but I was the junior.
Third generation as far as the Harpleys are concerned. Your grandfather George and your dad Alan, of course, both associated with that champion horse that brings back so many wonderful memories. Welcome advice.
Yeah, it does for me. Even though I was young at the time, I can still remember his Inter-Dominion win. Obviously, I was only 5 or 6, and I can still remember it playing. And some of the free-for-alls they had at Junee, like the likes of Just Too Good and Hondo Grattan and Paleface and Reichman and Adius Victor. They'd come from all around Australia to watch them. And it was a fabulous time for the industry. We'll never see it again, but we've still got champions like Leap to Fame that people will go and watch. So, it was a great time for me, and no wonder I got hooked because, I grew up with those sort of horses.
Tony Turmer, you were telling me a story where Tony led with Hondo Grattan, got beaten, he just couldn't believe it.
Yeah, Dad obviously told me the story. Yeah, he didn't run a place. He led on a free for all, and he said to Dad after the race, he said, if someone had said to me that Hondo would lead in a country free for all and not run a place, he said I would have said they were not right in the head. But that just showed the quality of those races, and when they had so many good horses that could do that to Hondo. So yeah, and the bookies back then, they'd hold an enormous amount because every area would come to see their champion, and one would get blown out, so they'd back it, and then the next ones would back. So it was just a fabulous time for the industry.
And as you just mentioned, every area did have a champion. When you look at Adios Victor, Just Too Good, Paleface, Adios, Welcome Advice, the list goes on. And I remember on a regular basis, Harry Pearce, Billy Ellis, Owen Daly, Des Corliss for the Sun newspaper would write about the country stars coming on to take on the big guns of the city.
Well, Dad always considered maybe Ardrossan as the best horse he ever had. He won a New South Wales Derby in the year I was born, actually. I told him it was a very good year that year when I was born as well. But that was 1967. He beat Adapter, who went on to win a Miracle Mile, I think, after that, or was at least raced in it anyway. So, and I think he got sold at the time. Dad had him to the end of 4-year-old. I think it was 60,000 to America then. Like, to put that in perspective now of what you could have bought back in the late 60s or early 70s with 60,000, it was just a great era. It was a great era, and like I said, another Kenyu Bay was another horse that Dad, I think they all won about 34 races. Ardross and Kenyu Bay, Welcome Advice, they all won similar races, and Dad he was a master at the stand and starts, and he had an advantage over him those days, and yeah, he'd go through the stable, and that one's won its last 4, that one's won its last 6, and as I said, I was hooked pretty quick.
That particular country free for all you mentioned, $1 to get in, and there was a crowd of 5,000 plus.
Yeah, that was what they took at the gate, and around the home bend there was a paddock from probably the 300 to the 200 mark, and there was cabbage thistles in there, and they were trampled over about 10 foot back where people had just got in to see these horses. And self and my mate, we had to get under the steward's stand. It was the only spot we could get on the fence to see them. So, yeah, they were it was just fabulous to see. Fabulous.
Mentioned prize money, Welcome Advice, 179,000 from 126 starts, 50 wins, 40 placing. We're including Victoria Derby, Kilmore Cup, and as you mentioned, the 1972 Albion Park into Dominion. What a sensational performance. The money he would have won translated in today's dollars and cents.
That's 100% right. Like, as I said, he was the first horse in Australasia. I assume standard bred that would be to win 100,000, and when my grandfather actually got him, he was in his mid 70s when he got him, and he raced in 4 consecutive Inter-Dominions. Now, grandfather went to New Zealand, and obviously the Albion Park where he won, and then Sydney, and then to Perth. He floated him over there and took him by boat to New Zealand, and it added another 10 years to grandfather's life. And there was a reporter actually talked to grandfather one day and said, "Is this the best horse you've ever had?" And he said, "Listen here, lad." He said, "This is the best horse anyone's ever had." So he was a bit biased, but I can understand why he said that.
Back in 2018, 2019, you won the Riverina Trainers Premiership, and it was on your bucket list. Why was that?
I'd never ever thought I'd have the opportunity to, because I didn't train a lot of horses. As I said, I had a full-time job all that time. So I didn't ever think we'd get in that situation. I had a good young fella, Jordan Siri, that worked for me for a few years, and I usually only like to work about 7 or 8 horses, and Geordie wanted to get more, and after about 12 I said to him, "Look, you're working here, I'm not the one that's got to do all the work here." So I think we got up to 14 or that year, but obviously with Bernie's horse and had a few good owners at the time, and it come down to the crunch with Alan Jones and Blake Jones, and I won it, and I thought to myself, well, I've done it once, I'm happy with that, because I never ever thought I would. So it was just a good feeling to be able to say that you drove all these good horses, but you want to train its premiership as well.
Bruce, we've spoken about the wonderful deeds of Frith, but also another wonderful mare prior to her was Lady Waratah.
Yeah, she was an amazing horse. I'll tell you what's even more amazing about her, that her record's outstanding, and around 600,000. She never, and we're talking in the early 2000s here, she actually never ever went quicker than her first start. She went 1:59.5, and that was the quickest she ever went in her life, but she won 2 Australian Golds and 2 Breeders' Crowns. So it's pretty hard to believe that you could get a horse that could do that, but she had great manners, you were able to dictate speed, she had a good reputation, brilliant out of the gate. You can't ask much more than that. So, yeah, she was a great horse for sure.
Harpley Pacing Stables are certainly a family affair these days. Your wife Tash, your daughters Maddie and Brooke.
Yeah, that's right. I tried to get Maddie and Brooke into it a bit, but I think they realised how much hard work there was. Back when they were little, we had a little area for them where they used to play while we were doing the horses and stuff. We had it all fenced off, and they kept saying, "Dad, when are we having something to eat?" I went, "Soon, next horse. But I think they realised they were getting too hungry and didn't want to hang around me. So, but yeah, anyway, they're great. They've got their own jobs and got their own lives, and they've been a success at what they do, the pair of them. So I'm very proud of them both. So, yeah, now we've got a grandson. He's turning 3 next month, and he's Pop's boy. So yeah, he's certainly. I've got a future for him, but probably not the same as what his parents will want. But anyway, we'll see what happens if I can hang around long enough.
Yeah, you're talking about Cody, the son of Maddie. I've seen some pictures of Cody. He was proudly wearing an Eastern Suburbs jumper, but I believe that might be put to the one side.
Definitely. I've worked on him hard to get him to be a Seagull man like myself, and I think I'm winning. His mother's a Storm, and his father's Roosters, but I reckon I've got him beat. Everything I've got at home, as soon as he comes, I get the Manly stuff out, and he knows what the Seagull is straight away, and I've got a special medal for him that he carries around with a Seagull on it. He's got the Seagull hat on now, so he spends a lot of time at my place, and he's got a little brother or sister coming along in May, so he'll spend more time there. So I'll keep working on him. I think I've got him.
I think you might also have him as a fourth generation as far as his famous family is concerned, because I saw a photo of him making horseshoes.
Yeah, no, he watches so intently, like all little kids. They're just a sponge and they want to do whoever's around them, and he loved it. He loves hitting the nails, and yeah, that's exactly right. So yeah, he got on the anvil there and he was watching what I did, so he got up there, and he was only 2 at the time. As I said, he's 3 next month, so no, he loves it. He gets up on the gig there, and he's unfortunately got a similar whip action that I had over the years, so we'll have to tone that down a bit, but no, he's a great little fella.
You've had some very nice horses. They're all named after the family members. Rubies for Tash, Roses for Tash. No doubt you bought Rubies and Roses for your lovely wife. Dans for Maddie and Diamonds for Brooke.
Yeah, well, Diamonds for Brooke, it was a bit of an in-house joke in our family, because Brooke ended up with the best bred ones at the time, and they were the worst 2. So we've been very reluctant to name anything after Brooke, where Maddie's ones have been quite good. Maddie's mate and Dance for Maddie, yeah, they've all been quite good. So, and of course, Ruby, go back for Roses for Tash. She's the only horse that we've ever bought from a yearling sale, and we bought her for 9,000, and she ended up winning us about 110. She and Wilson won a 4 with her at Harold Park, and therefore, and then our first foal out of her was Rubies for Tash, which had won 230,000. So. Yeah, they're still hanging on. We'd like another one of them pretty quick, but we've had a nice run with them for sure.
Bruce, has always been great to catch up with, especially to reminisce about those great days that we will never see repeated with Welcome Advice and the likes. Thanks very much for joining me.
I appreciate it, Mick. It's good to talk about it.